Hi, I'm here with Andy Gole today. Andy flew in from New Jersey last night to Vancouver to visit us, and he just gave a presentation on selling and sales tactics and strategies around behavioral-based selling. And he's going to tell us a little bit more about what he does and how he does it, so I don't butcher it.
I don't know, you did pretty well if you ask me.
Thank you.
So thanks for this opportunity. Thanks for bringing me in. We have a great group. You did a great job leading them. And
thank you.
I like to think that the group got something out of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
When we did our checkout at the end of the session, there was a lot of takeaways. All of the members got a lot of really good tips and tricks and strategies and tactics. So yeah, they're definitely left with some really good things to be working on and taking back to their companies. So it was a tremendous success in my mind.
And for anyone who's listening to this, I think one of the good takeaways is we work on self-limiting assumptions. And so that's like an exercise that I think every company could do at the right time.
Yeah.
But to some of the highlights of the program, grew out of experience. I started a sales agency. That was my first business. I was outsourcing the selling for a company of an orphan product that really wasn't being sold. I thought it was going to be a walk in the park, as it were. They turned over existing accounts to me. I had done a cash flow analysis. Everything looked chunky-dory.
Oh, you were off to the races.
My life was going to be great. And then within 3 months of starting, the major account turned over to me, representing 80% of the sales dropped the item.
Oh my goodness.
Instead of, this is going to be easy, I was scrambling. And at this point, I didn't know how to sell. I was running around, lots of trial and error. And I was in a do-or-die scenario. It's how I came to face do-or-die. And to understand at a very deep level, do or die versus best efforts. So as a teenager, mom and dad told me if I gave it my very best efforts, that would be great.
Yeah.
But boy, when I started this first business and I was at 20% of what I expected, if I gave it my best efforts, I was going to go bankrupt. I was going to die, and do or die was going to die. So I started to step out of the box.
Yeah.
And I really feel that that's when I first started being as much creativity as I have. That's when I first started being creative. Necessity, the mother of innovation and so on, invention. And so it took me a couple of years to figure out the basics of how to succeed. And at the time, I figured everybody else who was in selling was doing things the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But some years after I solved that problem and had 10x growth in my sales agency, some years after that, I hired a new CPA firm, an accounting firm, and they try to upsell me above the basic, tax returns and so on.
Yeah.
They try to upsell a cash flow product. And I asked the named partner, is this how you normally sell after the 1 hour presentation? And he said, yeah, it's pretty good, wasn't it? And I said, gee, I thought it needed some work. So I ultimately proposed that this firm of CPAs hire me to teach them how to sell. And they invited me in, for a meeting.
Yep.
And so, Andy, have you ever taught this to CPAs before? No. You have any testimonials? No. Have you ever done this anywhere for anyone? No. Do you have some curriculum you could show us? No. So what makes you think you could do this? This is the conversation. And so I said, well, I saw you sell to me, it was here, I could fill the gap. Anyway, they took me out on a sales call.
Yeah.
I closed the sale for them, and they hired me. And that's how I got into the sales training.
Wow.
That's how I got in.
Now, you talked about 10x. Tell us a little bit about how you got the 10x.
Well, you have to remember that I lost, 80%.
Okay.
But I had to replace that, and I grew much more after that. So the solution involved challenging a self-limiting assumption, which is I had to go through the buyer. I actually went around the organization, went to their customer, got their customer to buy into what I had, and then ultimately I formed a relationship there, and my sales blossomed from that. I picked up other lines, And so I got very much in tune from a personal experience and thousands of sales calls with the idea of urgency and how to create urgency. And then as the years went by, I started to cull out or tease out some high-level ideas like bold vision, bold behavior. If you're not getting what you want in a situation, 2 check-in points are, were you bold enough in your vision? Were you bold enough in your behavior? And very often you could do more. And then there was do or die versus best efforts. Another is the difference between social selling and business selling. A social seller wants to be liked.
Yeah.
A business seller wants to earn the right to profitable business. So most people tend to be social sellers. And in the program I have, I coach them to become business sellers by getting them to do behaviors that they once thought was abhorrent, because their self-image is often, salesperson is Willy Loman, slimy loser, versus how about salesperson as trusted advisor?
Oh, yeah.
Trusted advisor or a hero. And then how do you become a trusted advisor? So I was doing this from the get-go. When I first started my first business, I was acting as a trusted advisor. I was helping people run their businesses, but I had to codify it and tease it out and then figure out ways to teach other people. And so those are some of the things we went over in our session today, including what has been most helpful is the 15-minute executive briefing. And, I showed you a group, what goes into that, what does it look like, and how they could develop their own.
Can you share a little bit more about that 15-minute one-pager?
Well, there's the idea behind the 15-minute executive briefing is that when you want to reach out to a C-suite person, they're going to be very busy.
Yep.
And so if you could attract their attention, they're not going to be excited about spending an hour or hours with you, but 15 minutes. I've done about 50 of these in the last 3 months, and I can tell you that I'm on the road to being a trusted advisor. It may not be the right time for the kind of program that I hold, but I offer, but you're on the road to being a trusted advisor. And this is so important because one of my insights is in the first 15 minutes of the first conversation, you get put in one of 2 buckets. Either you're going to be dismissed as a commodity, a price check, or you're going to have a shot at being a trusted advisor. And that's where we all want to be.
Yeah. What would you say is a couple of the key strategies to getting the message across or having them interpret the second, which is becoming a trusted advisor? What are some of the things that we can do to set ourselves up as not to be someone who's just getting price checked or a commodity, but somebody who is obviously a trusted advisor?
Well, it starts with mindset. The mindset I recommend is, I'm going to consider this meeting a success if you're glad you took it. If you had takeaways, if you, the listener, are getting something out of this. And then I act to fulfill that. I try to do enough research and know the prospect and focus on what would be a deliverable with the idea of wisdom versus selling. Wisdom means here are ideas that the prospect can use and they don't have to buy from me.
Yeah. So you're providing value to them, irrespective of whether you make the sale or not, and you're delivering knowledge to them, things they can learn about. I know you also talked about providing like statistical evidence and proof as a part of the value proposition.
Yeah. So in the 15-minute executive briefing, which is a way to bring a CEO or owner, up to speed on some new developments, it's always good to have statistics from well-known sources, proof sources, to support what you're saying. But at the same time, I would comment that, in my experience, the typical CEO or owner kind of knows these things. A lot of these things are true.
Yeah.
For instance, there's this one study in the Harvard Business Review that says that only 18% of salespeople become trusted advisors.
That's a pretty low stat.
It's a pretty low stat, and it shows room for improvement.
Yeah.
But I would have to bet that the average CEO or owner probably knows something like that is true.
Yeah.
You know, they might think it's 20% or 30, but they know it's not 80%.
Well, the question is, what are they doing about that?
Well, hopefully they'll talk to you and me.
You know, that's a good note to wrap up, Andy. Really want to appreciate you. And this is not the first time I've heard Andy speak, which is why I flew him back into Vancouver to speak to my groups again. And just so many learnings. He's going to be meeting with my CEO group tomorrow and looking to continue the learning and education. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All righty.